Good morning. I am Professor K. Srinivasan from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Madras. And today I have the honor of speaking with Professor T. Sundarajan. Welcome, Professor T. Sundarajan. So as the part of the IIT Madras Heritage Series. So Professor T.S. or Professor T.Su, as he is very fondly called, was my teacher at IIT Kanpur. And I have been fortunate to be in his constant association ever since. And today I have the privilege of hearing him out from his own words about his association and his experiences in IIT Madras. So before we go into the questions, I would like to briefly introduce Professor Sundarajan. Professor Tirmalachari Sundarajan was born in Madurai in 1957. He completed his bachelor's degree in IIT Madras in the year 1978. So later on he received his master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Pennsylvania, USA in 80 and 83. He joined as an assistant professor at IIT Kanpur before moving to IIT Madras in 1993. So Professor Sundarajan's full resume takes about maybe an hour to complete. So I'll very briefly give his credentials. He has published 207 journal articles and equal number of conference papers. He has guided a massive amount of 53 PhD students, really an unbelievable record, and 37 MS students to his credit. He has conducted research in the areas of fuel combustion, nanofluid heat transfer, jet flows, acoustics, multi-phase flows, propulsion, heat transfer in porous media, and high-speed launch vehicle systems. He has carried a lot of projects of national importance, particularly the fast breeder reactor subsystems for IG car, and several projects by ISRO, ARDB, DRDO, and DST. As a principal coordinator. He has also served as a principal coordinator of the National Center for Combustion Research and Development at IIT Madras, and also he is currently coordinating the DST project on solar thermal power generation. Professor Sundarajan is a fellow of the National Academy of Engineering and is also an institute chair professor. Professor T has also received the Astronautical Society of India, that is ASI, Award for Rockets and Associated Technology in the year 2006 for his contributions to space research. So with this short introduction, so I'll get the questions starting to Professor T.S. Sir, can you briefly explain how you joined IIT Madras for the undergraduate program, and what was the procedure for admission in those days?
See, nowadays the JEE exam was not well known. Few people knew, many did not know. It so happened that in my family, my elder brother himself did metallurgy in IIT Madras. So I was aware of IIT, and also I knew that it's a very tough exam to clear and so on. In those days, there was no coaching institute, etc. But fortunately, I did my pre-UC class, PUC, in Loyola College. The professors there, in mathematics, chemistry, physics, etc., for about a month they helped us in solving some of the problems, etc., and that was helpful definitely. And more than anything else, I must say I was plain lucky that I got it in IIT Madras. So I think it's a blessing.
Okay. So was there any interview besides the entrance exam, or it was?
No, there was no interview, but counseling. Counseling was held in this NCC building actually, and so counseling was mainly to select the which area, which department you select and so on. In fact, my rank was somewhere in the range of some 520 or so. For that, except this electronics and communication, which was the highest rated branch, everything else was available. And in fact, my relatives, my brothers and everybody advised me to take electrical power. I was so afraid of shocks. So, and really speaking, we also did not know what is mechanical engineering and so on. That much of knowledge was not there. But I think I made the right choice because I was particularly interested in physics.
And the very joking part is that you ended up right now in producing electrical power through
Yeah.
the solar.
Yeah. One of my friends told me that what you get away from will come back to you later in life. So I was afraid of electrical power because of shocks, and then I took mechanical.
Can you briefly recall your undergraduate days? How it was like, and
Yeah, actually that was a 5-year system actually, and being helped by Germany, so there was a lot of emphasis on engineering fundamentals. So the first 2 years, particularly for all branches, there was a lot of workshop practice and drawing and so on. Even in the other years, a lot of emphasis on lab work. For almost every subject, there was a lab, and usually afternoons will be lab and so on. The first year, every alternate week was a workshop week. So throughout the week, starting from 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday to Saturday noontime, it was 5.5 days actually. So it was workshop. So we have done one full semester of fitting and so on. Because in Germany, they would do first something like a diploma, and then they will go to BA, bachelor's program. So to recapture that kind of experience here, in the first 2 years, there were a lot of workshop. So almost for all branches it was there. And also 4 semesters we had drawing for all the branches. And mechanical had more drawing because subjects like theory of machines or even design and so on. So almost 7 semesters of a lot of drawing and so on. We had to draw by hand because there was no CAD and all that. So they really drove into us the fundamentals of engineering. I think that was unique in one sense because other institutions like IIT Kanpur, right from day one, they were more into science and theory. So much of engineering fundamental work, because this being supported by Germany, that was the kind of emphasis we had.
So that's an advantage in terms of the practical.
It was an advantage at undergraduate level.
Yeah. So any recollection about the faculty taught you those days, and any special teachers or the key takeaways that you took
from them? There were many. In fact, the first 2 years, it was common for all the branches. So it was mostly physics and chemistry and mathematics and so on. So particularly physics department, we had everybody, all alumni from Edinburgh from the olden days, will remember Professor Swaminathan. He was brilliant, but a little eccentric person. He used to sport a beard and so on. And always in his class, if you don't listen to him, look outside or something, then, you saw some lady going there, I am here with a beard, don't you see me like that? No, you have to listen to a earful of
always
scolding.
Taking care of the students' attention.
No, but really brilliant. During lab classes, if he'll come and ask you questions, and if you answer correctly, immediately he'll give you full marks, and that kind of very, very committed, and because it was there was a general feeling that the students are cream of the country, and then of course challenge them all the time, and then if they stand up to the challenge, then support them. That was the kind of attitude throughout.
To bring out the best.
Bring out the best. And professors also tried their best. Of course, teaching was the main this thing. I think research had not caught on still. So that was the kind of general scenario. While we had this kind of little eccentric person, but there were also very conventional people. Another physics professor named Ramabhadran, and he used to have traditional sherwani, and then panchakacha, this dhoti, and then turban and things like that, but very methodical. So like that we had the conventional as well as unconventional people out there. And in the department again, so from third year only mainly the departmental courses started. So many of the senior professors, of course many of them retired now, some are no more also. And quite a few senior professors were doing their PhD. Professor Srinivasamurthy was doing PhD, Professor Vijayaraghavan was doing his PhD. So like that, quite a few, of course, senior professors who have recently retired, they were doing their PhD at that time. So it was, I would say that from a teaching point of view, we really, we had very committed teachers in almost every subject, and they used to challenge us for everything.
So, did you have any like elite visitors, like Nobel laureates, or that is still fresh in your memory or something, invited by.
No, I must really say that as undergraduates, see, we were very tied up with, see, the number of courses which were there. Every semester, typically there will be 7 or 8 courses, and hardly any free time. And most of the time there will be labs also. So, I would say that other than academics, maybe some music, etc., some festivals were there. But in terms of lectures and so on, I must say that started only after my master's and PhD. In the undergraduate level, it was more of learning the basics.
Yeah, actually, I have it as a separate question little later. Any difference or in the infrastructure in the teaching labs and in the classrooms?
Very, very good. I think the teaching labs were excellent. And in fact, now we don't hear it, but that time if you come anywhere near MSB, you will hear the clang clang of workshop going on all the time. So, because every lab was very busy, and the state of the art equipment were there from Germany. And of course, nowadays everything is all micro and nano sized things, more electron. In those days, real equipment, almost a power plant was there in the heat transfer laboratory. So, there was a boiler, there was a condenser and so on. Similarly, in the turbo machines laboratory, real size turbines were there, real big wind tunnels were there. So, all mega size equipment. Or if you go to this in design laboratory, one part of it was called, they had big cranes and really mechanical handling equipment. So, even water turbines and real big size turbines were there. So,
for example, in many institutions, they just study the Francis turbine, Kaplan.
See, many of them are more like toy-like equipment. You just buy it from the market and use it with small size. These are real, actual size.
Huge things, we could see, and
huge things.
in fact, only after my joining the institute.
So, in those days, big is beautiful, not small is beautiful. So, that's how it was in almost every laboratory.
Only a few years earlier, I think most of these things have been dismantled, and some have been kept in front of Heritage Center also as part of the memorabilia.
And the thing is that because of this, the experimental work was very much encouraged, and I think even people who were doing research, doctoral work at that time, mostly were experimental work. And in fact, only I would say in the early 90s, etc., computers and simulation slowly came into this thing.
Sir, something about your classmates and batchmates. How was your interaction with them, and whether you still keep in touch with
we are a very close-knit group actually.
So, how many
classmates were there? Whomever we could track, all right. See, I think in the batch there were a little more than 200, all right. In the entire batch, not mechanical, all put together. Mechanical was one of the larger branches, all put together, little more than 200. And almost all of them are in the group, and it's a very, very close-knit group. So, every 5 years or so, yeah, we do. Actually, we used to have this Yahoo groups, and then, so 1978 Yahoo group was a very powerful group. And
now they have disbanded it.
Yeah, because Yahoo didn't want to, so we have switched over to other things.
Yeah, so I think there will be a long list.
Right from our 25th year reunion, after that group has become even closer.
Your 25th batch, they donated something to IIT. So, can just a few sentences about what was that?
I think it was about 1 crore that we.
No, not the money, but.
No. See, it was the thing is that at that time, this new common mess facility, etc., was being built.
The Himalaya.
So, one wing of Himalaya was.
Who is your batch's
contributed from there.
That is nice.
See, earlier in our time, every hostel used to have its own mess, and so it was all hostel was a self-contained unit. Whereas I think the administration felt that it is better if you make everything common. So, a common mess.
Some batches contribution you are able to see while we walk within the MSB or HSB, 1977 batch or something. So, yours is Himalaya, which along with other batches, they have made the 6 large mess.
Yeah, so the institute was undergoing some kind of radical change in terms of many more hostels and buildings and coming up. So,
right time
to, yeah. So, any one thing could be named after the batch contribution, etc. So,
Sir, how was the hostel life? How was the mess food?
in fact, even now, our director, Professor Amuti, is also around the same time. He passed out in 1980, because we are hostel mates also. He keeps saying that the hostel life is something that many people have cherished. Because, see, at home you have one brother, one sister, maybe, but here it's like almost like everybody is a brother. So, it's a big brotherhood. So, that, and it's a very impressionable age also. So, at that time, the kind of friendships that you form, they are lifelong. So, hostel life was very, very pleasant, very pleasant. And yeah, it was okay. Nothing to really comment about.
Things. For example, I still will recall if somebody asks me, I cannot forget the aloo paratha and jalebi of IIT Kanpur. So, any such remembrance you have?
No, no. In fact, it's a little other way that see, any hostel menu is all routine. No, they will say such and such day, such and such thing will be there. So that used to be a little. But of course, Sunday morning breakfast used to be masala dosa that everybody really liked. Very crisp masala dosa used to be there. And Saturday evening there used to be very light dinner, because people will go to OIT and you'll finish little earlier also. Because 8 o'clock the movie will start. So the Saturday night dinner was more like bread and sandwich kind of a thing, and something very light.
So, OIT, were you a regular to the OIT movies?
Sometimes, not always.
So, how was Chennai different as a city as you see it compared to what you see today?
Today, there is maddening traffic everywhere, and that was not the case earlier. And
This
so,
would just be a few buildings inside a jungle type of thing. And
no. See, it was Adyar was not so crowded at that time. So many times, in fact, we used to walk from hostel all the way to beach and come back. Just walk and go. All right. So that was possible, and but today I think I won't risk my life to walk around.
in fact, my father was manager in Tiruvanmiyur industrial estate, manager of the bank. So he works late, and when he used to come back, he says that every time this Madhya Kailash region all the way up to Anna University, that stretch was real, because it was very lonely. It looks like olden days. So you were then coming to your Kanpur experience. So can you recollect your experiences at Kanpur, your colleagues, the teaching experience?
Yeah, I must say one thing here as an interlude, that the bachelor's program at IIT Madras was very intense in engineering knowledge. But in fact, to tell you the truth, by the time I finished my bachelor's degree, I felt maybe I didn't know anything. I didn't grasp anything. That was a feeling, some kind of vacuum I felt. But after I went to US and did my master's degree and then continued to PhD, I realized that a lot of engineering fundamentals had been absorbed. I just didn't know about it. That was very helpful in doing the research. But my research was more theoretical. So, in computer-based simulation and so on. So, that was really the other side of the coin.
No, you already had a couple of JFMs by the time you had finished.
No, that was all based on simulation, computer simulation. So, I picked up the theoretical modeling that in fact for quite some time that was considered as my strength actually. And those fundamentals came from my master's PhD experience at the University of Pennsylvania and continued at IIT Kanpur. So, IIT Kanpur, when I returned, IIT Kanpur was known for modeling, theoretical modeling, and in fact computer science as a subject was spearheaded by Professor Rajaraman. Right. So, otherwise in those days computer science was taught only at master's level, not at bachelor's level. So, people will do engineering degree in any discipline and then go to master's or PhD in computer science. That was a general, but bachelor's level itself starting computer science was something that Professor Rajaraman started. So, IIT Kanpur was pretty strong in terms of theoretical modeling. The science-based education is what they believe. So, that fitted very well with my research experience at US, and then I continued further. And one more thing was that, I also must make this general comparison. that in IIT Madras, each discipline, mechanical engineering or even under mechanical engineering, heat transfer, fluid mechanics, turbo machines, everything was sort of a separate kind of entity. And but in Kanpur, that was not the case. It was across departments, within department, etc. Lot of interaction was there, and that helped me quite a bit also to get a broader perspective of engineering.
So, what was your relationship with colleagues at IIT Kanpur?
Very good. In fact, I must say that I was very young at that time. See, I straight away went after bachelor's degree, didn't do any job in the industry or anything. I finished my BTech when I was about 21, 22, and then I went to US about 4.5 years. Both masters and PhD were over. So at the age of around 26, already the doctor's PhD was in my hand. So and then a little bit postdoc work also. So around 28, I joined IIT Kanpur. So everybody, this young guy has come and joined. So very patronizing. They're all very senior people also. I got a lot of encouragement.
No, even in your own age group.
Yeah.
For
Large
example,
group,
Professor Muralidhar calls you.
He joined 2 years later.
He calls you. He calls himself as Ram Ka Bharat.
Anyway, so IIT Kanpur mechanical engineering department. So the senior people felt that these young people are the future of the institute, and I received a lot of encouragement. And then of course they said you have to start laboratory and so on, and got involved in some lab development and things like that. That was very helpful.
Yeah, your lab. I mean, as a student, we have undertaken your lab course in Kanpur. So that is one nice thing. But I have also seen your room lighted up even at say 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. with people like V.C. Rao and like P.C. Das's other students from mathematics also. So just beelining into your room, and you were said to be an expert in debugging the printout of codes.
Anyway,
Fortran
for
code or
record, I
something.
must say that after coming to IIT Madras, I stopped looking into codes.
No. Can you just recall those experiences where you burnt the the midnight oil in debugging the this errors in the codes?
See, more I should say that in Kanpur, I learned how to do research in India. See, many people say that, in fact, the general feeling was that you can't do much research in India. That's the general feeling that people had. But it proved to be wrong in my case. So I found that if you work with students, all right, anywhere in the world, good work can be done. So, and then Kanpur also gave me the opportunity to interact with colleagues from different departments. So, collaborative work was possible. And those kind of things, I really think that it was a very, very fruitful experience for me. In the career development, it played a very important role.
So, sir, when did you join IIT Madras, and what was the reasons for moving to IIT Madras?
It was primarily, family reasons only. My parents were here and they required help. So, after about 8.5 years of work in IIT Kanpur, I shifted to IIT Madras. And I must say that IIT Madras also went through a transformation at that time. Maybe I should recall this a little bit, that one problem that IIT Madras had, maybe because of the German this thing, we were very strong in experimental work. In the German institutions, what they do is the professor, there will be one senior professor. He will be, very, very senior, and everybody will look at him like God. But below him, there will be several postdocs, several doctoral students, a group of maybe 50, 60 people working with him. The similar kind of thing also developed in IIT Madras, but the problem was most of the PhDs are local PhDs. People who had joined with a master's degree or something doing their PhD here. I have nothing against it, but the problem is this so-called inbreeding, as they say, that if you have your own students working as faculty, after a while, in everything, whether it is, even for there's a cross-pollination is a good thing that you get ideas from outside. So, IIT Madras suffered from this inbreeding problem that many faculty of the earlier times did their PhD. And of course, many were very good people there also. But still, what happens is when you are working, if you do your PhD, by the time you finish PhD, you are already 45. So, your energetic years are gone. So, after that, you don't expect much of the original work to come through. So, that was also part of the problem, and this was changing around the 90s. And that is when I applied from IIT Kanpur to IIT Madras. And I found that many of my mentors, Professor Natarajan, Professor Sitaramu, etc., many of them were welcoming, this kind of a thing that we must bring in new blood, we must bring in. So it happened around that time. So
that was about 93.
93, in the 90s.
So it must about 10 years after you left the campus. So
no, I left in 78.
More than a decade.
15 years.
15 years. So any stark differences you saw the change within the campus?
See, by that time I returned, it was already a 4-year program. BTech was a 4-year program. The emphasis which was there on engineering education, that is workshop and drawing, and in fact we had lots of laboratories, right? Many. One lab on electronics, one lab on electrical machines. I don't even remember how many. Almost every subject, even if the subject was not dealt with very deeply, there was a laboratory. So that's how it was. Because of which, dealing with machines, dealing with many practical things, that was really very, very good at bachelor's level. All right. So
that curriculum
I'm
was
still very proud of that.
So the same curriculum was there when you joined?
No, it had changed.
Oh, it had changed.
It had changed. That is why, in fact, I started saying for that reason only. It had changed quite a bit. It had become a 4-year program, so something had to go. So what went was this emphasis on engineering. So drawing had been reduced. For everybody there are 4 courses on drawing. It became 2 by the time I came here. And finally, of course, it became only 1. And also the emphasis on workshop, etc., reduced quite a bit. We went through a system where every alternate week was a workshop week. That was not there anymore. Of course, number of students also increased quite a bit. See, when we were studying, all right, so every batch had about 200 students also. If you put 5, about 1,000 undergraduate students, another 400, 500 PG students. That's it. About 1,500 or so. Today, it's almost 5 times, 6 times larger size. So faculty size also has increased. And it has become more research oriented. So with all that, those changes were starting already by the time I returned to IIT Madras.
So your early experiences with your colleagues after you joined IIT Madras?
It was like a homecoming for me. All right. See, an institute where you have studied, there is always a special relationship. Whether you like it or not, it is there. All right. Every hostel that you are in, every laboratory that you have been. So, and also the professors with whom you have studied, those who have taught you and so on. So it was like a homecoming for me. And in fact, that's exactly how the senior professors treated me. That, our own student has come back, something like that. So, but the unfortunate part was that some of the people who taught me positionally still had not got promotion and so on. So, all of that is because of this inbreeding problem, which of course, over a period of time, my teacher, Professor Natarajan, became the director. By the time his directorship was almost, this problem was completely eliminated, solved. It was indeed a problem. See, the trouble is that once a person is joined, he is your faculty, you have to take care of that person's promotion and so on. So that was a problem.
So coming to teaching, you were a crowd puller for in terms of teaching and research at IIT Kanpur. So when did that magic start in IIT Madras?
Anyway, I think you are being very kind to me. Anyway, as I already mentioned earlier, I think as far as students are concerned, you should be concerned with their progress, whether it is in coursework or in research. But if you show concern and then work with them, I mean that itself that is the magic, really. All right. So all the PhD students, MS students who have worked with me have come only with that kind of a thing. That see, there is a general tendency in our Indian society that the students look up to the teacher as almost like father. We say Acharya Devo Bhava. So that kind of thing is there in the culture. So if you really work with them very closely and then be concerned about their progress, I think that itself is good enough. So you may even scold them for not doing something all right, but still they take it in stride. That is not a problem. So I really think that you have to be concerned, you have to be about their progress and be with them. That's important. Especially for research students, it is very important that you closely work with them.
Even in teaching, you are well regarded as a very passionate and excellent teacher. So what is the, can you share the trade secrets in the, for the younger
We are in
generation?
teaching. It's a profession that I have liked and I have joined with interest. So somebody comes to you and asks you doubt, etc. You have to be patient and then
Be
explain to them.
accommodative. That is,
And sometimes we may not know the answer also. Let's say, okay, you come later, we'll discuss it. So give time and then discuss. I think that is good enough. That is that is the magic.
thank you. So you, besides teaching and research, your other roles in IIT, I'll go to the profession little later, but your like the corporate roles that you handled in IIT Madras. Can you?
Okay, I can name a few. See, the Office of Alumni Affairs was started, I think around 1995 or so, or 96, I don't remember exactly when. Professor Natarajan was the director at that time. So that was when the alumni contributions started coming in a big way. So then it felt necessary to start an office. So he asked me to be the advisor for it, and I was the first advisor for the Alumni Affairs Office. See, there are two things. There is Alumni Association, which is Association of Alumni. All right. Of course, IIT has given place for the alumni, near the hostel zone where they will conduct their affairs. So IIT will not in any way interfere with that. But for getting all the official things done, it was felt necessary to have a separate Alumni Affairs Office. So it was started. In fact, Professor Nagarajan has played a great role in that one. So, but the office was first started and then I was the first.
So you were the first core team in that.
I must mention here that Mr. Varadarajan, who is also an alumnus, and Raj Varadarajan, yeah. He was one of the earliest batches of mechanical engineers. He did a great job that we were able to, we used all kinds of innovative methods to trace alumni. Whatever the last address available, send somebody to go and check up and so on. So, and we were able to track 50-60% of all the alumni almost in one go. Then from one person you will get to know another person, etc. And that was also kind of left in a free manner so that each group will within themselves they will interact and get all the names. So
meanwhile all this Facebook and things also picked up. Probably that helped a little bit.
Right. So Alumni Affairs was one of the earliest things that I had worked with. Then
Your GATE experience.
GATE experience, yeah, that is right. GATE also, see, there was a feeling in me that we can't blame about students not being good. So we have to be part of it to really select good students. So the GATE exam, etc., is really the tool to see to it that good students are selected. So for 3 years as GATE chairman, vice chairman, etc., and that was also an experience where I could meet faculty from other institutions and so on. So the network among IITs. So that was something I should say that was a gain from, although it took a lot of time, but still the gain was that we could meet people from other IITs as well. So then the last one was this GYAN, where it's a global initiative for academic networking. That is another one for many professors from abroad or.
So you were one of the founding members in the team that initiated the GYAN program.
More or less. And before me, there was Professor Chandrasekhar, but that was just starting. And so most of the spade work had to be done. So almost 5-6 years I've been there, and that office is now functioning very well.
Because you had to formalize everything.
See, the thing is that initially when it was started, it was all on the basis of through email you communicate, and so now there is a website. So things are all sort of well formulated.
And another important thing is your HOD role as head of the department for 3 years. So those experiences.
To tell you the truth, Professor Bhaskar asked me, "Will you take up this position?" I was a little skeptical because generally, the institute, different departments have different kind of image. The image of mechanical engineering was it's a kind of status quo department that we will not accept any new change. What is wrong with things that is already existing? Generally, that used to be the kind of response even in Senate and so on. So I felt that there may be a lot of resistance in the department. That was not the case. In fact, the very good thing about IIT Madras is that people respect chair. So, and if you are in the chair and you sort of guide things, and enormous amount of cooperation is there. And I really, although it took a lot of time, I did enjoy my stint as the head of the department. And I must really say here on record that a lot of very good cooperation was there from all colleagues. Slowly we were able to change few things. One of the problems that people talked about regarding IIT Madras was that all things were in silos. So heat transfer laboratory means that faculty will not interact with another laboratory and so on. So that we wanted to come out of that. Although we initiated that, I think by now more or less, that sort of strictly within the laboratory kind of culture is gone.
So some sort of opening up type of activity that you promoted.
So that was one thing that was started. And also slowly modernizing the laboratories, etc. Certain things were started. So like particularly in manufacturing. So through a FIST grant, we were able to get some good equipment.
And you also helped a lot of other agencies during that time, if I can recall. The HRNC Ministry of Tamil Nadu. Some
No, see, they wanted some help in mechanical equipment, so the ropeway, etc. So okay, the head of the Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Madras, means there is something they think can be a member there.
So the formal letters that are sent to HODs, I think you took it very seriously and ended up solving their problem.
No. It is coming from government. So see, whenever there is a request from government, try to.
So has that exercise improved in the the people, the transit of people across the hill or?
Yeah, see, ropeway is not, it's a business which not too many players. And within India, they are there, they are very economical, but technically we are not so sound. I mean, lot of repair and all will come. So, the Palani Temple was interested in some international collaboration and so on. So, we were in the committee and that was completed.
So, it will be like a transformation as far as these places of worship are concerned, like Schollinger, Payani and all. So, those also I recollect that you contributed as HOD. Now, you have made humongous contributions to in projects pertaining to ISRO, DRDO, IGCAR, ARDB. So I think separate video may be required for those experiences, but these are very important. Some are very important.
What I would say is that my shift from Kanpur to Madras, one benefit was that, say, unfortunately Kanpur, neighboring anywhere nearby, you don't find any major industry or research laboratory or any such thing. Whereas Chennai, fortunately, is located in such a place where such collaborations are possible. So we have the Satish Dhawan thing very nearby, like that. So I think even before I came and joined here, already collaborations were going on. Professor Natarajan introduced me to some of these, and I found that, say, in any IIT, you can say that students are the wealth of the institution, for an educational institution. Undergraduate level, okay, you get the best in the country. Similarly, masters and PhD, the best PG students you get in an IIT. Faculty are also the wealth of the institution, right? So, beyond the students, undergraduate, PG students, etc., what else can the faculty do is also another thing to look at. And I found that there are a lot of opportunities being in IIT Madras to interact with all these aerospace industries, defense industries, so on and so forth. So, it was out of my interest that I took part in them. I must say I was fortunate that in one or two cases, we were able to make some contributions as well.
So, any important projects you want to share?
See, for the cryogenic engine, so cryogenic engine, one of the things that needs to be done is to test it on ground. ISRO has a practice of testing everything before they put it in space, they will test it. So testing the cryogenic engine require a very, very low vacuum environment, and especially for a rocket engine, it's giving out the plumes. Creating that vacuum environment is very difficult. So it is possible to use the plume itself to do the evacuation. So such a system was designed, and so we did lot of simulations for that. And side by side, they were doing the experimental verification, and it was successfully installed. So I would say that's one of the close collaborations that we have done. Similarly, for IGCAR, for the fast breeder reactor, so we have done a lot of simulations, and those simulations were, it was still, even now, fast breeder has not been finally fully commissioned, but it is very, very close to commissioning, and a lot of subsystem analysis and design we have done for them. That is also another important. All of those are possible because of being in Madras, where we are close to IGCAR, we are close to the space institutions. So it was an opportunity. I must say that I was fortunate to participate in them, and
So you would
more
have
than anything else, it was education for me. Alright, I enjoyed working on this project.
learning and contributing and learning.
Contributing is a matter of luck. Sometimes what you do works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. So
No, from people who we talk to from these agencies, they seem to be very, very much benefited from your contributions. So other things like DRDO, you were besides this research projects, I think you were instrumental in their entrance test.
yeah, actually during when we were in the GATE team, so they came to us. In Delhi, they have what's called RAC, Recruitment and
Assessment Center.
Assessment Center. So somehow they became friends, and they wanted us to conduct their exam, selection exam, scientist selection exam. So 2 times we did. They were very impressed with it, because in GATE, GATE is a well-oiled machine. So the office, they know how to handle big exams, and So we conducted, again, it's an all India level examination. We conducted for them.
So
2
you
times.
set up a paradigm shift for DRDO.
No, they were happy with our, GATE office was already, fully equipped to handle any major examination.
From a fully interview based, they
First conduct an exam, select shortlist from the examination, then conduct interview.
it was the first batch. I think you sent me also as one of the
Correct.
what is called institute representatives.
Anyway, so that was, they needed our help, and we were in a position to do it. So it's fine. And our whole team was supportive. It was fine.
Some of these projects or these technological outcomes that you still can remember and you're very, very satisfied. Any
Mean for the outside
for outside agencies or anything that immediately you want to share?
Yeah, I think for ISRO we have done quite
Besides the HAT facility.
I know. Besides that, there is a area called hypersonic scramjet machine, where they again needed our help for simulation, and we did simulation for them. Unfortunately, that configuration was not, it won't be successful. Based on that prediction, they changed it. And by that time, they also learned how to do the simulation and so on. So they were able to do local, they developed expertise for that. And interestingly enough, the simulations which were done earlier coincided exactly with actual tests. So there was.
That was in LPSC?
I think LPSC, VSSC together. And so I was in the review committee and so on as one of the members. And they presented that as a success, that they were able to predict the performance and then actually measure it during in-flight experiment. So India is one of the few countries which has achieved this supersonic combustion technology. So I'm happy that we could also play a small role in that one.
Yeah, you were also part of a lot of review committees for ISRO and DRDO.
Right. So in the review committee, this one came for discussion, and we saw that it was possible.
I mean, both for ongoing projects as well as for a failure analysis also. So I remember your visits to these places. So now can you compare the present lab infrastructure and whether it has gone the way that you would have wanted to develop?
See, what has happened is some of the changes that happen are forced on us because of international changes, right? So, whatever you take, whether it is computer simulation or laboratory work, if it is lab work, no, they have laser diagnostic tools which are very, very expensive and so on. And similarly, if it is computer work, people have parallel computers or with thousands of nodes and things like that. So you are for sending a good paper, you are depending on these kind of facilities. In our Indian thing, it is possible only if you make a central facility that is available for people. And so I think wherever possible, we have created such central facilities. And some of the less expensive ones where each laboratory can afford, and if you are going to use it for a long time, so you want something, even for a small group, you want some facility. I think a lot of very sophisticated instruments have been acquired in different laboratories of IIT, and they all come down in size. where we used to have huge turbo machinery and huge boiler and condenser are replaced by small electronic equipment, tabletop equipment and so on. This is a change that is inevitable because it has happened internationally. And if you have to compete with them and if you have to publish good papers, you also have to have. Whether you have it individually in your laboratory or if there is a central facility which is containing this, you have to have somehow. So I think both ways, there are central facilities which are created as part of some larger project like this NCCRD, etc., or even Solar Hub. And many places, even individual laboratories also are having better equipment now than what was there earlier, in more sophisticated equipment now. So because of, and side by side, the number of students taken for PhD, MS of ours increased. So we are no more an undergraduate, institution, but more so we are a postgraduate institution. More number of postgraduate students are there, research students are there. I think that transformation has taken place, I would say, right in front of my eyes. When I joined here, it was still more in terms of the undergraduate teaching. So from that, more and more PhD students, encouraging more PhD students and developing the laboratory facilities, etc. have happened. So that's a change that I see since the time I joined IIT Madras to now. Lot of ground has been covered.
So you founded the NCCRD.
No. Government gave money, we are all instrumental.
Not the PI of the project, NCCRD
Somebody
project.
gave money, we spent. That's
So
it.
can you trace the developments behind?
See, in 2001, there was, I think in Bangalore, they conducted this ISABE, I think International Society for Airbuilding Engines, for which many scientists were invited. And at that time, there was a very strong interest was expressed by the aerospace research community that we don't have good lab facilities, we don't have, for developing our own, engines and so on, we need such facilities, we don't have it. So, an equivalent of what you find in US and so on. So, we must have some national laboratory. So, this theme was reflected by many people in many places. And so, everybody said we must set up some national laboratory. And I think it was taken up a little more seriously. I mean, for any idea to germinate and then grow, it takes time. So, in 2001, this idea was mooted. And then it took almost 10 years or so to take it, for it to take a little more this thing, a serious kind of shape. And then I think government conducted some kind of survey of if you have to do combustion and related research, how many institutions have the
willingness?
Not only willingness, the inherent strength.
Okay.
So they found that IISc Bangalore and IIT Madras are two institutions which have already existing strength. So based on that, the government decided to provide something like a 90 crore kind of support to get the best laser diagnostic equipment and so on. So the sister laboratories in NCCRD were set up at Bangalore and Chennai.
And the Solar Hub, can you briefly trace the development of that project?
Again, see, I would say that even the last 1 decade or so, there has been a general feeling that hydrocarbon based energy conversion is very polluting. So we should go more and more for renewable energy and so on. So, and India is so blessed with a lot of solar energy availability throughout the year. So, there was a proposal from DSC that the IITs should look at this. So, there was something called Pan IIT Solar Group was formed again about 7-8 years back. And then under that, solar thermal was one of the ideas, and then IIT Madras was thought of as a place to do that. And I must say that Professor Anand, actually when we went for support for this NCCRD, he said, no, you also have to take up solar energy. I said, sir, I don't even know the spelling of solar energy. He said, no, don't tell me all that. I am handling 2-3 institutions.
You told this story during your felicitation.
So he said, you have to take it up. If you want support for NCCRD, you have to take up solar energy. Okay, fine. Took it, and then I'm really enjoying that involvement.
Yeah, it's a major.
And so we have been able to set up plants.
What is a megawatt that?
No, the one that is being set up now is not only for power. Power which is about 100 kilowatt. But we also want to do, because thermal can do other things as well. So you can produce good water, you can produce cold storage, etc. So we are
it's an integrated
in a kind of rural environment. We are trying to do.
Yeah,
the project is almost.
We visited as part of the MEA visit.
Yeah,
in
from that now more development has taken place. So maybe in another few more months that project will be complete.
So now coming to this human relations, what do you see about the human relations that is among the faculty as well as the student-faculty relations?
See, I think that there is scope for both collaboration and as well as competition. I think life is generally like that. Even among animals, there is competition, there is cooperation. So, at the lower level, competition is okay. All right. But as you mature more and more, it should be cooperation. That is what is good for everybody. So, faculty, what happens is that I am more intelligent than you, I am more accomplished than you. That kind of feeling, ego.
Certain things get in the way.
Is a problem, and that if it persists for quite some time, it can create problems. I think that early in your career, you want to compete and you want to do better than your neighbor. Okay, that is. I don't think that's any problem as such. So long as it doesn't become very serious and.
So, but are things improving, or they on the right track now?
By and large, okay. See, where there are human beings, there will be conflicts. You can't help it. But I would say that it is the role of the head of the department, role of the whoever is the head for the division should take care. If it is done, many things can be done smoothly. There is no.
And the faculty-student relations, how is that evolving?
See, the one problem that we have is, I think the number of students has increased tremendously, both for the teaching courses as well as for the research courses. And I do not know whether we have the right sizing of the faculty size, as well as the facilities and hostels from every point of view. I think many conflicts are coming from that mainly. I think it has to be rightly sized. Okay. And maybe if now every faculty member is guiding almost 10 PhD students at the same time, and that is putting a lot of pressure on them. So, maybe we should have some postdocs or some such thing to help in the process. But how to come out with a system which will work well is something that has to be seen.
But yeah, you were one of the busiest professors of the institute. How did you manage so many activities, trips, and other contributions in the middle of your teaching, research,
not knowingly,
student guidance?
Not knowingly, really, it just happened.
Really,
it just happened. I think I am lucky, blessed. I can't say anything more than that. It was not.
So maybe the credit goes to Madam also, Padmavati Madam.
Yeah, she definitely deserves a lot of credit.
So yeah, this thing about how
okay.
she
On serious note, I would like to say that this is where collaboration helps. In any research work, you are not at your best all the time. There are times when you feel great and then you can really, even overnight, you can solve a problem. But there are times for months together nothing happens. At that time, we had a collaborator. Maybe the collaborator will have some phase difference, and that person can put in energy and move the problem forward. So that helps. I think, to me, I would say that apart from individual work, research, you should also do collaborative work with other people, with like-minded people. And that in that way, you can do a lot of multitasking. Otherwise, it is difficult.
And the role of Padmavati madam, I think you have not mentioned.
Yeah.
Because she deserves
that is
lot of
multi-dimensional. So you require another 2 interviews to cover that.
cover that also. Because yeah, she was able to handle all your external and within the institute commitments.
She is herself is also busy.
She herself, being a principal, vice principal, I think she handled that so well to keep you with your schedule. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was very nice speaking to you and getting all your inputs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.